Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. Thursday morning, Bitcoin has pulled back. The Bitcoin miners are holding up relatively well. We have news out today or updates from Hive, IREN, and Digital. A lot to talk about in today's presentation. Before we get into it, take a second, smash the like button, guys. Big help to myself and the channel. Anthony loves it. And let us know in the comment section below how you're feeling about the Bitcoin mining stocks. If you feel like we're going to see a rally in February as we have in previous cycles, and your outlook for the remainder of 2025. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. All right, Anthony, Thursday morning, a very exciting day in the markets. We had MicroStrategy come out with earnings last night, rebranding to StrategyB. We've got CleanSpark coming out with earnings tonight. We've got some great production updates and big news out of Digital. So a lot on the plate today. First and foremost, Bitcoin has pulled back, dropping into the $96,000 range. Surprisingly, though, the Bitcoin miners showing some resilience, all but Riot in the green at the time this screenshot was taken. What do you make of today's trading?
Just a normal day for Bitcoin. It can move either way. There's nothing too damning in the news to make it fall in price. So it's just, it's probably maybe trading. People are trading Bitcoin on a daily basis. I choose not to. I will buy Bitcoin. Haven't sold any Bitcoin since I've been buying it, so I can't really use that as an option at the moment. But people out there are trading. They're shorting it. They're longing it, and this is going to impact the price. But I'm not overly concerned. It's just another day. I don't tend to sort of switch on and look at the price. You just reminded me what the price was before the podcast because I haven't been looking at it during the day, to be honest. But I did notice the mining stocks had stayed predominantly green today, so that's a good indication there because as soon as Bitcoin drops a fraction, you see the mining stocks retaliate really quickly and seem to go straight to red. So it's quite good. And reasons why, maybe because we're getting into earnings season. So today, after or I think at 4:30 Eastern time, CleanSpark are going to announce their numbers, and we anticipate those would be pretty good actually. They in terms of operational performance, good operational performance as a miner, massive increase in hash rate to get to where they are at the moment. They're over 40 exahash. And so that last quarter of 2024, which only finished, 5 weeks ago, we'll see a green position there, and potentially there'll be obviously a big unrealized gain in terms of the value of their HODL, which is, now the fourth largest holding of Bitcoin from any public listed company, and that's only behind the likes of Strategy, the likes of Marathon Digital and Riot Platforms. So they overtook Hut 8 in January when they got past their figure there, and they're pretty much hodling 95% of all the Bitcoin they're mining. I think they sold just over 20 Bitcoin this month, so they're really hodling all the way through 2024 into 2025, and there's no give up on that from their position. They want to obviously have a large slice. They did sell during the last bear cycle, so if investors feel that they're going to hodl all the way through a bear cycle, maybe think again with CleanSpark because they timed it perfectly. They had started hodling in 2021, then they started selling at the right time as well as the Bitcoin price really rallied up towards that 69,000, then sold all the way through 22, 23, and then started hodling, towards mid to end of 2023, and they've built this really good sized, over 10,500 Bitcoin now in a relatively short space of time. When you compare some of the other miners have been, building their treasury vision for 3 or 4 years. There was a point in time when CleanSpark had, no Bitcoin because they were selling on a regular basis in the same way that IREN and TeraWulf do as we look at today's action. So yeah, I'm looking forward to their results coming out tonight. To say, are they going to get to their hash rate target, which is 50 in the next 5 months? I think that's a done deal. They're going to get to 45 before probably the end of March. And that leaves the final 5 exahash. So I think what we'll see from CleanSpark is we'll see, them setting targets which they're going to punch through like they did in 2024. So their target for the end of the year in 2024, I think originally was 32, went to 37, achieved 39. That tells you that, come June, if they carry on getting these new sites, getting them developed, installing new machines, replacing the older fleet machines, that gives them more hash rate in it without actually having to expand some of their facilities. So they have got room for maneuver there because their efficiency rate isn't quite as good as IREN's at the moment. It's getting closer. If you look at their peak efficiency, I think it was in the 16s now, and IREN are at 15. So that's come down significantly the last few months there. That'll improve their the cost to mine a Bitcoin. We know they've got relatively cheap energy, not the cheapest in the market, but they've got a good price. I think it's in the low 4 cents a kilowatt hours. So having that great efficiency gives them a fantastic margin, probably somewhere 65%, 70% towards 70% margin in terms of gross margin on mining Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm expecting good results today and see what happens to the share price after hours. So wait for that one then. But that's the first of the big companies announced, and we'll see throughout February and March, the rest of them all reporting.
Yeah, great points on CleanSpark, Anthony, specifically around management's decisions and timing in this cycle, along with some of the equipment upgrade purchases we saw in the bear market. Now, interesting, they're coming out with earnings tonight. So maybe just give us some details into the CleanSpark earnings schedule.
Yeah, so CleanSpark's calendar actually runs from October the 1st through to September the 30th. So their last earnings update was their Q4. And we know when a company announces its Q4, their final accounts for the year, they're given a longer period to actually go out there, get them audited before they start, announcing to the market and issuing the 10K updates to the SEC. This set of earnings results for October through to December is their Q1. They don't need that length of period of audit there. They're really able to release their results fairly quickly. So just over a month from the end of the period. And we'll see other miners who are in that same position where this is not their Q4. If it's their Q4, you'll probably see miners towards the end of March, April release their updates because there's a lot more work involved. And these miners now, they're not operating in one location. They're operating in 10 locations, 11 locations, 3, 4 countries, 2 or 3 continents. And then you've got all the language, you've got all the different exchange rates to calculate. So companies like Hive Digital, who operate Sweden, they were operating in Iceland, operating in Canada, now operating in Paraguay, can just imagine the amount of work involved in just doing a quarterly or a final accounts period when you've got all those various subsidiary accounts to be put together. And collated and put all the necessary language in there and the exchange rates, etc., etc. It's a lot of work involved, and so I know some of these companies, and bear in mind, these public miners have been around since the oldest since 2017. So Hive is the oldest mining company out there, probably just about celebrating its 8th birthday this year. So they haven't had like years and years and years and years of experience. They're still in infancy. And sometimes you see these miners, they sort of like will slip a day or a week or a couple of weeks because there's amount of work involved in getting these things together. And they're not manpower, large companies. Some of these companies, you would not believe how many, operating. 2 years ago, Marathon Digital, the largest Bitcoin miner, had about 15 staff. They're probably up to about 150 now, but they operated on a very, very small amount of staff because they had their whole fleet hosted, so you didn't need people at every site. And a lot of these miners operating with minimum staff there, but have a lot of work to do when it comes around to quarterly and final year updates in terms of financials.
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting one tonight, Anthony. And as you say, a great indication of what's to come from the other Bitcoin miners that are yet to report. Now, speaking of reporting, we got MicroStrategy coming out last night. They've now rebranded to StrategyB. The rumor on X is this is an intermediate brand change, really lining them up for the next step into banking. So you can imagine Strategy Bank as Michael Saylor starts to evolve his business into the world's largest Bitcoin bank. However, great update from StrategyB. They put out some very interesting slides or material as part of the presentation. This one comparing StrategyB to the other Magnificent Seven in terms of share price performance over different durations of time. And you can see the clear winner here, Anthony, Bitcoin, StrategyB. It really is a shock to me that these other large blue chip companies have not yet adopted a Bitcoin standard, but that may be to come here in 2025.
Yeah, I noticed that table update there, and I mean, you've got to, look at the fact that MicroStrategy over that last sort of 12, 18 months really rallied. Those shareholders who got in sort of like, end of 2023 have really benefited from that. A 1 year return of close to 600%. Now that 600% was significantly higher. Believe you me, that share price has come down a lot since November. Where it touched, I think, close to $500 a share, and that's why it rose so quickly. And in that last year, you saw it, become one of the top 100 companies, and in the QQQ exchange, S&P exchange there. However, the stock price coming down has meant now, it's like the 107th or 110th company, by valuation. So, the Bitcoin price, rallied really well, and it needs to obviously go up a bit to get this share price to keep in that indice.
Yeah, most definitely. So a great update from Michael Saylor and gang. They talked a lot about the amount of Bitcoin purchased during the quarter, the yield. Another great visual here from HODL 15. Speaking of Bitcoin purchased, looking at the last 2 weeks worth of ETF inflows, Anthony, and you can see once again, overwhelmingly in favor of green or net buying of ETF Bitcoin exposure.
Yeah, just two red days, totaling about 680 million of outflows. But some of those days there, at least 3 or 4 of those days are over 500 million inflows there. So, in one of the days, you go back to January the 17th, had $1 billion of inflows into the ETFs on one particular day. And we've talked before about, what does that mean in terms of production? Well, production per day at the Bitcoin price at $100,000 is 45 million covers the daily production. So when you see 1 billion of inflows, that's effectively 22, 23 days of production. And, I've already said there, other days there, 755 million, 626 million, a couple over 500 million. This is more than more than 10 days of production. It's just relentless. But we've seen the Bitcoin price pull back. It's, like you said in the original slide, Bitcoin price is, hovering under 97,000. It was a high of 109,000. So it's pulled back, but there's still buying in the ETFs. We haven't seen, as anywhere near as many red days. So it shows a positive light. And as we go forward now with all the news that's coming out about the strategic reserve conversations that are going on at a state level and a Congress level, that's surely going to, put more emphasis on, people buying Bitcoin and investment banks buying Bitcoin, and these ETFs are showing that.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Anthony. Now, another topic we covered yesterday was global hash rate and difficulty. One of the reasons we're seeing that global hash rate increase so much is some of the new players on the scene here. So Cango is one of them, based in China, Anthony, a new entrant on the Bitcoin mining scene, but making a major splash here in the month of January, putting up nearly 540 Bitcoin, propelling it really into that top echelon of miners.
Yeah, and if you look at that rate there, I believe they haven't put the hash rate on there, but I believe from the last update they were operating at about 32 exahash, fully hosted, so they don't have any sites themselves. They're using the asset light strategy that Marathon implemented a few years ago. But 538 off 32 exahash is a very reasonable return, actually. It's certainly we covered Riot's update yesterday, and we'll cover IREN's in a short while. But 538 Bitcoin, those two companies are operating over 29 in terms of average operational hash rate, and they weren't getting 538. So Cango are getting close to their total hash rate installed. If that remains at 32, now they have said they're going to get to 50. I think during the first quarter of 2025. So without updates to say if those machines have actually started to come in or not, but they had a good update the previous month as well. I think it was over 500 last month. So this is pretty much on a par with what they did in December. Now they've got, the hodling, it looks like they're hodling everything as well. 1,472 Bitcoin with a valuation of 154 million. That valuation probably taken as at the 31st of January. But yeah, a good update. We need to know more about what the hosting deal is in terms of what the costs of that are there. But in all honesty, asset light means staff light in terms of, you don't need a whole massive amount of staff to deal with it with this there because you're hosting, you're paying for that service. So where they will have a probably lower mining margin because their hosting fee will be part of the energy price as well. That'll be together. They should have very little operating costs because they're not an operator. So, yes, they'll have obviously directors and senior team salaries going into there. But, you look at the likes of Bit Digital, who again were an asset light and they were able to work with, limited amount of employees. Now they're buying sites, they're buying HPC centers. That sort of changed, so they'll bring on more staff for that. But the asset light really means if you're hosting, you don't have as big an operational requirement to spend money. So it's a good update. We need more information to quantify it in comparison, but hopefully we get to see their quarterly results because they are listed on the New York Stock Exchange, so they'll have to issue their quarterly updates as do other public limited companies.
Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. Yeah, that one's a little bit DeepSeek-esque in my mind, Anthony. Really came out of the woodwork, a lot of questions, and realistically, where would you get the money for 50 exahash just out of the blue, and then you're hodling all of your Bitcoin? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, but as you say, definitely some more details needed in terms of Cango. Now, the final news item, we broke article last week talking about the Czech Republic, looking at a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Now the president has come out and signed a law eliminating capital gains tax on Bitcoin with the caveat of a 3-year hold period. So this was an interesting twist. I actually really like what they did here, Anthony, encouraging people to hold Bitcoin for the long term. And if you're able to do that, getting a tax break on the back end.
Absolutely. In the UK, you'll pay tax the day after you sell it. So, it's a different ballgame over here. There's no exemption from that. So that's a positive story to see there. And you can see why there's a lot of interest in some of these Eastern European countries with regards to Bitcoin. Most of a lot of the techs out there are working in Eastern Europe now, and it's no surprise that you see these sorts of announcements before some of the countries that you would expect, the likes of Germany, the likes of the UK, France and Spain, the bigger economies in Europe, but these Eastern European economies are more, they're out there testing and want to progress, and this is one positive. outlook from that there. And interestingly, we had the head of the European Union come out and say that Europe wasn't going to have a strategic reserve. Although she was aware of the Czech position and she was going to have a conversation with them. Well, that's fell on deaf ears at the moment because they're going out all out to make it more appropriate for people to buy Bitcoin and hold it for long periods. So that's a positive update. We want to see more of these updates.
Yeah, we certainly do. I'd like to see one of these in Canada. The unfortunate fact is, I think the only way we're getting a capital gains break on crypto is if we become the 51st state, as Donald Trump has, I guess, hinted at or joked at, Anthony. We'll leave that for another conversation. We do have a couple more updates, though. So Hive has come out with their production update for January. IREN has come out with theirs, along with some great visuals and images. And then a big announcement from Bit Digital, actually looking to get Sam Tabar on the program Monday. So why don't we kick it off with Hive putting up 102 Bitcoin in the month. Total operational hash rate sitting at 6.0, but as we just heard from the team, they've got big plans for 2025 focused in South America.
Yeah, very good update from Hive. But they're now sort of like they're sitting well for 2025, as you quite rightly said. This purchase of the site in Paraguay, a win-win for Hive Digital as well as Bitfarms. Bitfarms wanting to pull away from South America, focus on the US, but Hive Digital have been able to go in there, get a deal with an energy price that's cheaper than what they're paying in their other sites at the moment, and they have good relationships with the authorities down there. All the way up to the sort of like the president level there. So, and they're going to do some social responsible things down there with along the lines of they're going to install electricity in some of the schools. So really, really positive thing that Hive are doing. But in terms of their update today, 102 Bitcoin mined, just slightly less than what they did in December, and that can be down to a number of issues that all the miners have had. The weather conditions in January haven't been great for mining, which not necessarily the cold, but the fact that the cold impacts everybody else, and so therefore demand for electricity is higher. Therefore, you're required to curtail as social responsible customers of the energy market, and they do this, and so they're even though they were achieving well over 6 exahash in terms of energized hash rate throughout the month, their average was 5.7. So that tells you round about probably 10% curtailment during the month there. In terms of efficiency, this is where we look at, this is going to impact on the price to mine a Bitcoin, 22 joules a terahash. Now that's going to come down significantly. That'll be in the sort of 18 to 19 range, I think, when the Paraguay site comes online. So that's that efficiency coming down, bringing the total cost to mine a Bitcoin down, plus a lower energy rate. That's a win-win for Hive, those two factors. They sold 250 Bitcoin. Now, Hive don't generally sell much Bitcoin, but they've sold this on purpose. They've used this to purchase or part pay, with Bitcoin, the purchase price of those sites in Paraguay. So, miners have got very few levers to pull in terms of raising capital. They could release more shares. They could sell Bitcoin. They can go and buy debt. And Hive will have thought about the best route for them doing this, and they've sold a little bit of Bitcoin. They've still got 2,567 Bitcoin with a valuation at the end of January of 262 million. Now we know the cost to Hive in terms of that stem sites in Paraguay plus the energy prepayment was around about 85 million. Yes, they're going to have to put some mining machines in there and complete the construction, but it looks like they're well positioned to do all that because they've already got orders in place for miners. And Aidan and Frank on the last podcast were able to say the rates they were paying for these new machines was, significantly lower than what we've seen in the market recently. So they managed to get great deals on the miners. They're bringing in some of the latest Bitmain miners as well. So that obviously gets the efficiency average down across the whole fleet. So again, another good solid update. Hive, in terms of the last 4 years as an operator, only Bitfarms can compete with them over those 4 years. But we are seeing in end of 2024 and beginning of 2025 a lot of the other miners now are pulling their socks up, I don't think 2025 is going to be as easy for Hive and for Bitfarms. The competition's up there. The top 6 or 7 last year were separated by a hair. It literally was, and it should be, because at the end of the day, it's about what you're able to switch on and deliver. And we said this before, it's, you might have 10,000 S19s or 5,000 S21s. It's hash rate online. They still deliver hash rate. It's not a quality of hash rate, it's hash rate. Yes, the price is different, because if you're using S21s, your cost to mine a Bitcoin, because these are more efficient machines, don't need as much energy to mine the Bitcoin. That's the difference. But actually, in terms of hash rate, in terms of energized hash rate, it's about machines being physically online and able to mine. And what Hive do is they tend to get the most out of their machines. But we're seeing a change now in a number of other miners who are equally stepping up to the plate. And this month, it's very, very close to the top there. And there'll be there's a couple of new miners that might finish in the top 2 positions that don't normally finish in the top 2 positions. So that sets the scene for 2025. And we'll see how that goes on there. But a good update from Hive overall.
Very good update. Now you talk about pulling your socks up. The next company here, IREN, they've pulled their socks up about 31 exahash worth of socks in 2024, moving into 2025. They're coming out 521 Bitcoin, so very close to what we saw in the month of December. But some great visuals here, Anthony. And what I really like is this gross hardware margin they're including. So essentially 75% margin once you strip out energy on their Bitcoin mining operation.
Yeah, absolutely. The good thing about IREN is that they put out great reports on a monthly basis. Well, they've altered the report this month. It's they've changed the graphics. To me, it looks like they're putting out a presentation every month now. We look at, and the miners are they've got better since the last 4 years, since I started looking at these updates and started reporting on these updates. When I first started, it was 3 or 4 lines, a few sentences, how much they'd mine, what the hash rate was, did they sell any Bitcoin, and that was end of. And then we saw some of the miners start to include a little bit more information, and the retail investment community loved it, because you give that information there, they can do something where they can make the comparisons, they can do more due diligence. The investment banks, they want to see as much detail as possible, because they're forecasting constantly on these companies about what they expect their revenues, their turnover, their costs are going to be. And by seeing these monthly updates, I'm very privileged to read some of these investment bank updates when they come out, and you can see the depth of the information that they put out there. But it's taken from the likes of these monthly updates, from quarterly earnings updates, from full year updates. So IREN look like they're putting out effectively a nice little presentation for everyone to see, and by the time you've read it, it leaves you not wanting to ask any more real questions, because everything's on there. We look, Bit Digital do something in a similar way. They don't leave anything off the table in terms of what income they're receiving in total. IREN follow that route as well. So they talk about Bitcoin mine, they talk about HPC, they talk about their strategy in both those areas, where they expect to be 25, 26, 27 year onwards, like that, what their pipeline of power is, and they do it graphically as well. And what I quite like this month was also they put some update photographs. IREN generally do this quite regularly in their updates. They put update photographs of Childress. I looked at the Childress photograph. I thought I was looking at something like, an airport at first. I didn't thought that was a mining site, because it was all nicely lit up there. It looks all uniformal. It doesn't to me look like and we've been to some mining sites. Right at Corsica. If you look at the photographs there, that looks impressive as well. We've been to that site there, but I'm not saying every mining site looks impressive. This one looks quite good, and it was great to see an update from there. They've even got a photograph of Sweetwater, which is their 1.4 gigawatt site, which they're obviously, I think they have a plan to maybe utilize that for HPC. And you can already see on the Sweetwater site, that they're now, building out, the general works on that site there, which will include, the development of the access points, interior roads, offices, warehousing, etc., and security installations there. So they're well on way there. They're going to get the construction of the substation, which is set to begin literally as we speak now, early 2025, and the energization is due to occur in the first half of 2026. So literally, less than 18 months away, that site's going to be energized there, and reading between the lines, that could be a sizable HPC contract at that one site there. 1.4 gigawatts is an immense site. We've been to one. We've been to one of the biggest in the world. We've been to Corsicana, which is a 1 gigawatt site. This is 1.4 gigawatt site. Now we can see from that photograph that work's being done, because previously we were looking at fields, and now you can start seeing development. It's real now. It's like, and we'll get regular updates from IREN, the team at IREN, showing what else they're doing on that site there. So that's a really positive update. But in terms of obviously the main event, we want to know what they mined this month. And in terms of Bitcoin mining, it's 521 Bitcoin. Now 29 exahash was their operational hash rate. Their full hash rate, energized, is 31. They achieved that at the end of December. And they're well on the way, as you can see from the picture, they're well on the way to start growing that extra 19 exahash, which would be, achieved by the end of June this year. And I don't think anyone's going to be betting against them achieving that there. They not only achieved their hash rate for 2024, they exceeded it. It was at 20 exahash at the sort of like early in the year, went to 30 exahash, and they achieved 31 exahash. So no one's going to bet against them getting to 50 by the end of June. And also, what we like about IREN, I've already intimated, is that they update on their HPC as well. So in terms of their AI cloud services, again, they're achieving just under $1 million, $800,000 in terms of AI revenue, and their energy costs supporting that are around about $40,000, which gives them a profit margin in terms of their hardware of 96%. Now, energy price for mining Bitcoin also slightly increased during the month of January, and that can be because of obviously the weather conditions down in Texas. Weather conditions, when demand is high, that can impact the price, and the price changes in Texas on every 15 minutes every day. So they're on market rate down there, as are a number of other miners. So slight increase there, but it's still achieving 75% margin, which is exceptional. So yeah, really good update. Like the new format, and good, as I say, a good solid update from IREN.
No kidding. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. IREN really setting the bar for transparency, communication with these monthly updates. Great to see. Now, you mentioned Bit Digital, also well known for transparency on their updates. They are coming out today with a big announcement introducing what they're calling WhiteFiber. So we've heard Sam Tabar talk a lot about differentiating these two sides of the house, the HPC, AI, the traditional Bitcoin mining, feeling like they're not getting representation or the multiples they deserve for these various different business units. This could be a precursor to really separating or splitting off those two business divisions. And we're actually going to have Sam Tabar on Monday to talk through this update, give us some details as well, Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. So, they talked in previous podcasts about, the fact that they didn't believe their HPC business was getting the credibility that it probably deserved. I mean, we're talking about a company that's achieving more in HPC revenues than all of the miners probably added together at the moment. And they have, as they say in the update today, they've gone from one customer up to 20 customers, and there's been no end of updates over the last few months. So this won't come as a total shock to people that they have rebranded to the HPC element of the business to WhiteFiber, which effectively encompasses its GPU cloud and HPC data center operations. And Sam's emphasized that this reflects what the company's commitment to high performance vertical integrated AI infrastructure is going to be. And the rebranding highlights their focus on expanding the HPC business services. Whilst it's, mining and Ethereum staking operations will continue under the Bit Digital brand. So, it looks like a clear, split between the two elements there. Who knows whether this goes further in actually, separating the company out, so it's separated totally. But yeah, good update. And as I say, we'll get Sam on the podcast on Monday and get those questions across to him and give us more of an open view of what's happening.
Yeah, that'll be great. Now, we're not going to be receiving a lot of very positive comments for this, Anthony, but the miners have fallen off a little bit throughout the podcast here. We've seen now a handful of miners turn to the red. So let us know in the comment section below, you guys, how are you feeling right now about the miners? Are you making any purchases here in advance of earnings coming out? And what do you expect to see from CleanSpark tonight? That's all for now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.